What is the difference between a cyclone, hurricane, and typhoon? All these three names sounds like similar, but it differentiates based upon its origin. A storm by other name is just a storm. Yes, hurricane is the same as a typhoon, which is also the same as cyclone, but not necessarily the same as cyclone. So typhoon, hurricane, and cyclone, what is the difference? There is not much, except their names. Though these names do depend on where a storm originates. A hurricane occurs over the North Atlantic or over the Central or Eastern North Pacific Oceans. In places like Florida, the Caribbean, Texas, and Hawaii. Forming over the Western North Pacific in East Asian countries like Japan and Korea. That's a typhoon. Both hurricanes and typhoon are tropical cyclones, and cyclone is what they are called when they occur in other places, such as over the Indian Ocean. So what is a tropical cyclone? A cyclone starts out over a tropical or semi-tropical waters as what NOAA calls a rotating and organized series of clouds and thunderstorms. In the northern hemisphere, they all spin counterclockwise. When it first gets going, it's called tropical depression. As it picks up speed, it gets upgraded to a tropical storm. It needs to have winds of at least 39 miles per hour to earn this designation. And when sustained winds of 74 miles per hour are reached, the storm has intensified or matured to the point where we now refer to as a hurricane, a typhoon, or an intensified tropical cyclone. So what is the difference between a hurricane and a typhoon? Hurricane versus typhoon, how did they compare? Besides occurring in different parts of the world, hurricanes happen in the North Atlantic or over the Central and Eastern North Pacific, while typhoons occur over the Western North Pacific and East Asia. They also vary in intensity. How that intensity is factored depends on who's doing the factoring. In the United States, we rate hurricanes on a scale of 1 to 5 using Saffir-Simpson scale that's based on the maximum wind speed. However, the World Meteorological Organization gives strong typhoons, very strong typhoons, and violent typhoon as a class 5 designation. So the different type of hurricane and typhoon scales are: category 1 has a winds between 74 to 95 miles an hour, category 2 is 96 to 110 miles per hour, category 3 is 111 to 129 miles per hour, category 4 between 130 to 156 miles per hour, and category 5 157 miles per hour and above. So what is the difference between a cyclone and a hurricane? Like hurricanes and typhoons, cyclones and hurricanes are not exactly the same. Hurricanes are designated as when they develop over the North Atlantic, Central North Pacific according to the National Geographic Channel. Meanwhile, when rotating storms from over the South Pacific and Indian Ocean, they are called cyclones. The storms also differ in times of the year they peak. Hurricane season is a full swing from mid-August to October, while cyclone season can peak anytime around May and November. So why that there are different names for the same kind of storm? So why the different names? Cyclone is generic and world meteorologists use to speak generally of these storms. The online etymology dictionary states its origins to 1848, when it was presumably used first to describe an intense storm that happened over India in 1789. The word hurricane's origins in the Americans date to the arrival of Spanish here in the 15th and 16th centuries. Typhoon entered the English language when explorers interacted with residents of Southwest and Southern Asia and comes from Tufan, which means big cyclonic storm in Arabic, Persian and Hindi. No matter what you call these intense storms, They bring strong winds, lots of rain, and flooding. And no matter where in the world you are, if you live in a region that experiences cyclones or hurricanes or typhoons, the largest and the most intense of these storms are becoming more and more likely due to climate change. A recent study found typhoon versus hurricane versus cyclone, no matter what we call them or where we experience them, we are in for a wild future.